Get ready with me as I prepare for a previous speaking engagement down in North Carolina. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit as I prepare and get ready for that speaking engagement to share a little bit about myself and how I became an author, a life coach specifically for divorced women, and a speaker. So I went through my second divorce in 2010. So 2010 is when I actually separated physically and moved to a whole nother home from my second husband. During that time, my children were 16 and 6, and I was homeschooling at that time. My youngest was in first grade, and my oldest was actually a junior in high school. And so they were involved in activities and all those things. And I was rolling into my life as a single parent. Prior to me separating from my husband, my ex-husband now, I pretty much stayed at home. I was a stay-at-home mom. I have a professional I'm a healthcare professional, and I have been for over 30 years now. But at that time, I just worked in the hospital a couple of days a month. So mostly I was at home. But once I separated, I had to attempt to quickly go into a full-time workspace, which took a lot of effort, even though I was already employed, but I had to get more hours and things of that nature. So it was a little bit challenging, but we made it through. So during that time, I worked primarily night shift, and during the day was getting my kids the oldest to some outside classes, and my youngest sort of teaching a few hours at the table, trying to get rest, me going to therapy, them going to therapy, and they were in gymnastics and basketball. And so we had a very, very busy, hectic, full, but peaceful life at that time. And so shortly after that, first maybe half a year, I realized that I was becoming quite overwhelmed being a single parent. And so one of the things I had to do was begin to make some decisions as the new school year was going to be, arriving and making some decisions. And I remember feeling guilty about putting my children into traditional school. Now, let me just say there's nothing wrong with traditional school. This is just a path that we as a family had chosen, but now the family dynamics had changed, and physically I really just could not do all of those things for my children from an education perspective. So that fall, I enrolled my oldest into the local high school as a senior, which went very smoothly. My oldest already knew a lot of people, got right into sports, graduated number 16 from that class, and all the things. That's another story for another day. I put my youngest into private school in the second grade, and she had some challenges at first because she had never, ever been in like childcare or school. I did put her into summer camp a couple of days that summer before school in the fall. So that was helpful, but it was a big transition for her. But the smaller school environment was perfect. There's only like 10 kids in the class. And so after an initial transition, she did well and has extremely done well. And to this day of this recording is a junior in college. And so life was pretty hectic. And I remember about a couple of years after getting settled with finally finding a full-time job. My oldest was in college and my youngest was in private school. I remember praying, and the Lord imparted a title of a book to me, of what I believe the Lord speaking to me. And I thought, I'm not writing any books. Are you kidding me? Like, why are you impressing this title upon my heart? And so what I did was I just wrote the title in the notes section of my phone, which was in 2020, which was in 2012. And I just continued to live my life for the next couple of years. I had finally started dating again. I was dating someone, and, everything was pretty good. Really getting a smooth routine and transition to my life at that time. And then around the fall or end of the year, around 2015, I was, online in some different platforms, and just, how we skim these social media platforms. And I began to just feel this impression about writing the book, the title that I believe God had gave me. And so through prayer and everything, I began to start writing this book, right? Writing it. The title was Suddenly Single, and sharing some important things to do within the first 5 years, spiritual and practical things for the first 5 years of a separated or divorced woman. And I started writing the book. And the moment that I started writing this book, you guys, all of a sudden on social media, I began to get exposure to coaches and people who were writing books and doing these things and offering courses. And I just thought it was interesting because it was a world I had no knowledge of, nor initially was interested in. And so I found a woman who was talking about writing books and how a book is a business and all of that. And she was out of Oklahoma, and she was a business coach. Now, at that time, I had no idea what a business coach was. I was not really into social media. I thought it was all fake. And this woman said she would be coming to Raleigh, North Carolina for a small, intimate, little conference about writing and business building. And so, mind you, prior to this, I was, pretty much following every live stream that she had and all of that. But when she said she was going to come to the East Coast, I'm like, okay, let me get there so I can see this person in person and see if this is all real, right? So I took a day off from work. I drove to Raleigh. So from where I live, it's about 2 hours. And in this event, if you will, it was probably like 40 people. And how at that event, not only did I meet some people that I still know to this very day, but I met my business coach. She became my business coach. I found out that it was all very real and very doable. And my life really changed from that moment on with connections and informations. And so I wrote my book, published my first book in 2016, went to one of her conferences in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I got on a plane alone. I did not know one person except for my business coach. And I flew out there for the weekend. I think it was probably 3 days. It was a brave move on my part. It was also a brave financial move at that juncture in my life. And from that event, my entire world opened up even more. I met some wonderful people, men and women, who to this day, almost 10 years later, I think it's like 14 years later, I said 10 years, 9 years later, I have incredible relationships with these people. I have done business collaborations, been to their conferences. It just opened up an entire new world for me as an author. And once I went to that conference, I understood the dynamics of what God had called, what I believe God has, well, not what I believe, what I know at this juncture, what God has called me to do, and that is to help separated and divorced women. And I created an online group, which is called Divorced Women Unite. I had some other names previously. And I began doing daily live streams talking about the challenges of divorce and questions of divorce, because remind you, I had gone through 2 divorces, right? I had gone through 2 divorces. I blended families. I was in the process of co-parenting, and I began to share some of those challenges and things that I learned along the process. And I got my certification as a life coach and began to coach women one-on-one. I began to do group coaching, and through a lot of exposure of the people that I met, I began to be guests on different podcasts and platforms all across social media. And my whole world began to just literally change. Over time, I offered courses and classes, and I wrote a couple of additional books, and it was really, really amazing about how God can take a negative situation in your life and turn it into something positive. And the moment I did my first live stream or first couple of live streams, and there was a response of women who were looking for encouragement going through the divorce, who were looking for some level of hope, because if you've been divorced, you know it is such a challenging time. And sometimes you feel like you're never going to get through it. And so over the course of time, my business began to build. I was able to go from full-time work to part-time work in 2017. I just worked a couple of days a week and continued to build my business. I grew a team that helped me in my online community. I began to certify other coaches to be divorce coaches. I began to host retreats and do a lot of things. Study more human behavior, get some ancillary certifications, and it has just totally changed my life. And I would not want to be doing anything else. So I'm talking to you today because regardless of whether you're divorced or not, regardless of whether you have a purpose or a dream in your heart, I want you to be encouraged to know that a couple of things. God, and I'm a believer and a Christian, that God will give you the desires of your heart. And not only that, He can take any situation and circumstance and turn it around for good. And so I want you to stay encouraged, because whatever is inside you, people need what you have. Whether that's your experience, a particular talent, or particular gift, it is inside you. Everything that you need is already on the inside of you. Allow God to open those doors for you. Open your mind. Start planning, start writing, get a vision of what you see for yourself. And if you need healing in your life, whether it has to do with a past relationship, parents, or anything, get that healing first, because it's very difficult to help other people when you have not primarily healed, right, a certain area of your life. Because we know that healing is a forever journey. We're always growing, we're always learning, we're always changing. So you don't have to be perfect to step out on whatever talent or gift that God has given you. Walk in faith, not in fear. God has so much more in store for you. There is always more. There is always greater, and there is no limit. No matter what your age, your nationality is, it does not matter. God has a purpose and a plan for your whole entire life. And every little thing that you thought was a challenge, or maybe you did not understand why you were going through it, oftentimes on the other side, you will see exactly the role that it plays in your life. And oftentimes, some of the things and challenges that we go through, or the giftings that we have, are not necessarily for ourselves, but they're for other people. So on today, I want you to stay encouraged, to be encouraged, and live out your dreams. It is never too late to do it. You have so much more within you. And so as I continue to get ready in this video here, it was a phenomenal opportunity. A woman that I knew years ago literally suggested me to the woman who hosted this show. I had never met her before that day, but we did have a couple of conversations on the phone and a Zoom meeting with the panel for the event that was held on that day right outside of Greenville, North Carolina. And it was an amazing time. The women on the panel just immediately gelled. We formed a sisterhood from just this one event, and we had the opportunity to sit on a panel and answer questions around all areas of relationships and romantic relationships and how they affect our lives. And so we had a wealth of not only information but personal experiences on that sofa that day. And I am just eternally grateful for the opportunity and just the opportunity of my whole story this far. And I'm so excited because I know that God is not done with me yet. as is, he is not done with you. So I want you to stay encouraged. I want you to continue to move forward and enjoy whatever season of life that you are in, because there is always more.
Broken future, all the plans you made in your heart grew just to die. And now your damaged goods, damaged should have never been. Thought you were bulletproof, look at you, what happened? Did she hurt you? Are you okay, baby? Everyone gets hurt, that's how we learn to make love work. It's part of life, but if you need a lullaby, baby, don't cry no more. Just let her walk out your door. Baby, don't cry no more. Mama's here. I wrote a lullaby for you.